Hi, this is Chapter 12 on Information Security Standards. There will only be one recorded lecture for this chapter, so let's get going. So here are our topics. We're going to talk about the standards organizations apply to information security, ISO 17799, ISO IEC 27002, what PCI DSS is, and there are a lot more topics than just this in this chapter. Goals. You'll be able to identify prominent information security standards organizations, summarize what ISO 17799 contains, explain how ISO IEC 27002 pertains to information security, describe PCI DSS requirements, and there are a lot of other goals in terms of different standards that are not these standards that we're going to discuss. The learning objective is to apply information security standards and U.S. compliance laws to real-world applications in both the private and public sector. And the key concepts, again, international information security standards and their impact on IT infrastructures, uh, the two different ISO standards, and the payment card industry data security standard requirements. And we're going to talk about a lot of other standards as well. So information security standards, they're necessary to create and maintain a competitive market for hardware and software vendors. Otherwise, you'd be trying to sell your product to a company and they wouldn't be able to integrate their product into their system. Guarantee compatibility between products from different countries and provide guidelines to ensure that products in today's computing environments work together. There are a lot of different standards organizations. Here are a bunch of them. Prominently in the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C. They're the people that actually put together all of the standards for how web pages should look on the World Wide Web. The Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, those are the folks that have actually created the standards for how the Internet communicates. The Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE. A lot of our computing standards are based on their standard requirements. The International Telecommunications Union Telecommunications Sector, ITUT, and the American National Standards Institute, ANSI, which, as we'll discover, uh, creates a lot of standards on how programming languages are written. So let's talk about NIST first. It's a federal agency within the U.S. Department of Commerce. Its mission is to promote U.S. innovation and industrial competitiveness by advancing measurement science, standards, and technology in ways that enhance economic security and improve our quality of life. It provides standards for measurement and technology on which nearly all computing devices rely. And it maintains the atomic clock that keeps the United States official time, and maintains a list of standards and publications of general interest to the computer security community. Indeed, the various different NIST special publications, usually starting with the 800 series, you could use them to create your own cybersecurity program for your company or organization without hiring somebody to do it, because all the required standards, all the procedures, and all the processes are in their NIST special SP 800 series special publication series. NIST cooperative programs. NIST executes its primary mission through these four programs. NIST laboratories, they conduct research to advance U.S. technology infrastructure. The nation's industry uses this infrastructure to improve the quality of products and services. The Baldrige National Quality Program. This is a national program that empowers and encourages excellence among U.S. organizations, including manufacturers, service organizations, educational institutions, healthcare providers, and nonprofit organizations. It also strives to increase quality and recognize organizations that achieve quality goals. The Hollings Manufacturing Extension Partnership. This is a network of centers around the nation that offer technical and business assistance to small and medium-sized manufacturers. By the way, it's named after the late Senator Ernest Hollings from South Carolina. And the Technology Innovation Program offers awards to organizations and universities to support potentially revolutionary technologies that apply to critical needs of national interest. The International Organization for Standardization, or ISO, is a non-governmental international organization. Its goal is to develop and publish international standards for nearly all industries. It is a network of 161 national standards institutes, serves as a bridge between the public and private sectors. Its best known ISO standard is the Open Systems Interconnection Reference Model, or the OSI reference model. Now, we've seen the OSI reference model before. It is their best known standard of ISO. This internationally accepted framework of standards governs how separate computer systems communicate using networks. It contains 7 distinct layers that address 7 different issues related to networked telecommunications. It defines the standards that enable computers and devices from different vendors to communicate, enabling interoperability. Although many newer networking solutions do not strictly correspond to a structure of 7 distinct layers, the OSI reference model is still the predominant tool used to teach networking concepts and has long been the basis of understanding how networks provide general services in a standard environment. The International Electrotechnical Commission, or IEC, they work with ISO. They are the preeminent organization for developing and publishing international standards for technologies related to electrical and electronic devices and processes. Their standards address a wide variety of areas, including power generation, semiconductors, telecommunications, and physical and computer networking hardware. The World Wide Web Consortium, they are the main international standards organization for the World Wide Web. They develop protocols, guidelines that unify the web and ensure its long-term growth. Their standards developed or endorsed include cascading style sheets, CSS, Hypertext Markup Language, HTML, Simple Object Access Protocol, SOAP, and the Extensible Markup Language, XML. The Internet Engineering Task Force, or IETF. They develop and promote Internet standards, focus on the engineering aspects of Internet communication, work closely with the W3C and ISO IEC, and is a collection of working groups with each, or WGs, with each group addressing a specific topic. They first met in 1986 as a group of 21 researchers who wanted to formalize the main Internet communication protocols. Today, the IETF is a collection of working groups, or WGs, with each group addressing a specific topic. There are currently more than 100 WGs. Because they tend to operate independently, the IETF sets minimum standards for each group. Each WG has an appointed chair or group of co-chairs and a charter that documents the group's focus and expected deliverables. Every WG has a dedicated mailing list to which anyone can subscribe. These mailing lists serve as the primary communication medium for participants. WGs also hold periodic meetings which are open to all participants. Request for comments. A document that ranges from simple memo to several standards documents. The RFC model allows input from many sources and encourages collaboration and peer review. Only some RFCs specify standards. RFCs never change. RFCs may originate with other organizations. RFCs that define formal standards have 4 stages: proposed standard, or PS, draft standard, DS, standard, STD, and best current practice, BCP. A few points about RFCs. As stated, only some RFCs specify standards. Only RFCs that open with phrases like "this document specifies" or "this memo documents" should be considered standards or normative documents. that RFCs never change. Any change to an RFC gets a new number and becomes a new RFC. Always look for the latest RFC because previous documents may be out of date. That they may originate with other organizations, and that they define formal standards that have four stages rather. The IETF creates only some RFCs. Others may come from independent sources, the IAB or the Internet Research Task Force, IRTF. As an RFC moves from one stage to the next, it becomes more formal and more organizations accept it. The stages are as follows, as we mentioned: proposed standard, which is the initial official stage of a standard; the draft standard, the second stage of a standard, after participants have demonstrated that the standard has been deployed in working environments; the standard, the final stage of a standard, after it has been shown to be widely adopted and deployed; and best current practice, the alternative method used to document operational specifications that are not formal standards. The Internet Architecture Board, previously mentioned, which is the IAB. It is a subcommittee of the IETF. It serves as an advisory body to the Internet Society, or ISOC. It is composed of independent researchers and professionals who have a technical interest in the well-being of the Internet. It provides oversight for the following: the architecture for Internet protocols and procedures, processes used to create standards, editorial and publication procedures for RFCs, and confirmation of IETF chair and technical area directors. The Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IEEE, is an organization that many of our professors, especially in electrical engineering, but even in computer science and IT, belong to. It's an international nonprofit organization that focuses on developing and distributing standards that relate to electricity and electronics. It has the largest number of members of any technical professional organization in the world, even more than ACM, which I'm a member of. ACM being the Association for Computing Machinery. Supports 39 societies that focus activities on specific technical areas, including magnetics, photonics, and computers. Provides training and educational opportunities covering a wide number of engineering topics. Standards are managed by the IEEE Standards Association, which is IEEE SA. Common IEEE 802 standard working groups are based on the different different internet communication standards: 802.1, higher layer LAN protocols; 802.3, which is Ethernet; the 802.11, which is our wireless local area networks, like 802.11a, b, c, a, b, g, 11n, ad, etc. 802.15, wireless personal area network, WPAN; 802.16, broadband wireless access, which is WiMAX, all the way down to 802.20, which is the mobile broadband wireless access. The International Telecommunication Union Telecommunications Sector, or ITU-T. It is a United Nations agency responsible for managing and promoting information and technology issues. Performs all ITU standards work and is responsible for ensuring the efficient and effective production of standards covering all fields of telecommunications for all nations. Divides its recommendations into 26 separate series, each bearing a unique letter of the alphabet. For example, switching and signaling recommendations are in the Q series. Here we see ITU-T information security recommendations. These recommendations become mandatory only when adopted as part of a member state's national law. Because ITU-T is a UN agency, its standards carry significant international weight. Even though ITU-T calls its standards recommendations, they tend to carry substantial authority. And here are just three of them, for three ranges of them. And here's some more. Cyberspace security is X.1200 to X.1299. Overall cybersecurity, identity management, and countering spam. Whereas X.1500 to X.1599 cybersecurity information exchange is focused on exchanging information between actors in a secure manner. And X.16 to X.1699 cloud computing security, specifically related to cloud environments. The American National Standards Institute strives to ensure the safety and health of consumers and the protection of the environment. Oversees the creation, publication, and management of many standards and guidelines that directly affect businesses in nearly every sector. Is composed of government agencies, organizations, educational institutions, and individuals. Produces standards that affect nearly all aspects of information technology, but primarily software development and computer system operation, as opposed to hardware development. ANSI was formed in 1918 through the merger of 5 engineering societies and 3 government agencies. These groups merged to form the American Engineering Standards Committee, which is AESC. In 1928, the AESC became the American Standards Association, which is ASA. In 1966, the ASA reorganized and became the USA Standards Institute, or USASI. Finally, in 1969, it became ANSI. Today is composed of government agencies, organizations, educational institutions, and individuals. ANSI represents more than 125,000 companies and 3.5 million professionals. One of its standards, way back in 1976, when I was taking COBOL at the University of Florida, it was called ANSI COBOL. Indeed, COBOL, the common business-oriented language, programming language. Indeed, ANSI code is a standard that defines a set of values used to represent characters in computers. The ANSI code set is an extension of the older ASCII 7-bit code set. Another is American Standard Fortran, the first standard programming language published in March of 1966. Fortran, of course, stands for Formula Translation, and is more of a scientific programming language than a business-oriented programming language. ETSI Cybersecurity Technical Committee, or TC Cyber, develops standards for information and communications technologies, ICT, that are commonly adopted by member countries in the European Union. The standards cover both wired and various wireless communication technologies. Cybersecurity Technical Committee, called TC Cyber, centralizes all cybersecurity standards within ETSI committees. The standard focuses on security issues related to the internet and the business communications it transports. ISO 17799. This has been actually withdrawn. It's a former international security standard that has been withdrawn. A comprehensive set of controls that represent best practice in information systems, which was known as the ISO 17799 Code of Practice. The BS 17799-2 specification for an information security management system identifies security controls needed for information systems in business environments. Enables potential customers to evaluate organizations on their efforts towards securing data. It divided its standard into 10 major sections: security policy, the statement of management direction, security organization, governance of information security, or how information security should be enforced, asset classification control, procedures to classify and manage information assets, personnel security, guidance for security controls that protect and limit personnel, physical and environmental security, protection of computer facilities, communications and operations management, managing technical security controls in systems and networks, access control, controls that limit access rights to network resources, system development and maintenance, guidelines for designing and incorporating security into applications, business continuity management, protecting, maintaining, and recovering business-critical processes and systems, and compliance, ensuring conformance with information security policy, standards, laws, and regulations. IEC 27002 supersedes ISO 17799. It directs its recommendations to management and security personnel responsible for information security management systems. Expands on its predecessor by adding 2 new sections and reorganizing several others into 12 major sections. Risk assessment, formal methods of identifying and classifying risks. Security policy, the statement of management direction. Organization of information security, the governments of information security, how information security should be enforced. Asset management, procedures to acquire, classify, and manage information assets. Human resources security, guidelines for personnel joining, leaving, or moving within an organization. Physical and environmental security, protection of computer facilities. Communications and operations management, managing technical security controls in systems and networks. Access control, controls that limit access rights to network resources, applications, functions, and data. Information systems acquisition, development, and maintenance, guidelines for designing and incorporating security into applications. Information security incident management, anticipating and responding appropriately to information security breaches. Business continuity management, protecting, maintaining, and recovering business critical processes and systems. And again, lastly, compliance, ensuring conformance with information security policies, standards, laws, and regulations. The Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, or PCI DSS, is an international standard for handling transactions involving payment cards. Payment Card Industry Security Standards Council, PCI SSC, developed, publishes, and maintains the standard. Formed by some of the largest payment card vendors who created PCI DSS to protect payment card users from fraud and to preempt legislative requirements on the industry. So again, this is a standard created by a private organization in order to keep from having the government create laws and requirements on the payment card industry. Requires layers of controls to protect all payment card related information as it is processed, transmitted, and stored. Applies to all organizations that participate in any of the processes surrounding payment card processing. So this is a standard that has become a regulation for organizations that want to accept payment cards, which are credit and debit cards. And the other thing is, if you were to go purchase something from a company that did not adhere to these standards, you may want to not make that purchase. So this is a regulation that's not a government regulation, but an industry regulation, and it ensures that all organizations that take payment cards are adhering to standards of due diligence. So in summary, we talked about international information security standards and their impact on IT infrastructures, two different ISO standards, and PCI DSS, and some other standards as well. That concludes Chapter 12.